TikTok presents a new interaction between old and young that can be rather unnerving. I understand that, but where do we draw the line? Because I'd love to end all noncery tomorrow if I could, and that's why we've made it illegal. That's why there have been a lot of laws in place regarding it. TikTok is its own international platform, it's its own environment, and there will be circumstances that are unavoidable to an extent. You could impose an upper age limit for adults, but age limits normally rely on relative maturity, and predators can be of any age. And once you reach a certain age, you can't necessarily tell that. You could increase the lower age limit, which is what sites like Twitter have done to increase personal accountability and avoidance of child exposure. TikTok did in fact consider raising it to 16 at one point, which would have been fairly proactive considering the people like the Bade were targeting individuals 13, 14, 15. However, they quickly changed their tune and only raised it to 13, which is an improvement, but was probably motivated by the fact that some of their biggest stars would have fallen foul to this change of policy. Annie LeBlanc, for example, has 13.6 million followers and is only 13 herself. On top of this, there are many ways for underage people to bypass such age limits. As a threshold for idiots, I guess it works. But I remember the first time I experienced an age limit, RuneScape. It didn't take me long to traverse the challenge. It might stop underage kids from being TikTok famous, but it wouldn't stop them from being on the platform. And that's one of the biggest dilemmas of the market. I'm sure TikTok doesn't want any predators on the platform, but their number one priority will always be the dollar. For all my criticisms of TikTok, it is innovative. It has implemented new ideas and new formulas that have yielded a new longevity and a new income. And the problem is, now the cat's out of the bag, even if they removed it, another business would be sure to jump on it. And their features don't specifically promote any predatory actions. They're all just small things that may cultivate an environment where it is possible for slightly twisted individuals to gain traction. And as documented, there are clearly inside and outside influences and cultural problems that create a narrative more clear. So let's put it all together for this final part.
Reloading!
It's every day, bro. It's every day, bro. I say it's every day, bro. You know it's me, the man, and I always mind diamonds. Yes, I can, man, and no, I don't play.
Much of behemoth will always yield. I think that the whole TikTok predator situation can reflect a greater criticism of culture, not just specifically the platform. However, I would have some suggestions that maybe they should take forward that wouldn't require necessarily losing out your complete business model to another brand. Maybe this could just begin with a bit more obvious outline of the privacy settings, assuming the best is always optimistic, and if they want to change it, they can. But maybe just bring attention to the fact that they can change it, because I'm sure the hyperactive child doesn't really pay much attention to the privacy settings that are incurred on the platform. If there's a parent involved, they may take preference to that as well. Equally, I'm aware that it is ageist to assume that every old person on the platform is a creep, and that culture should never be just restricted to age. However, when you are making a platform with an age limit that supports children under the age of consent in many countries, I would still recommend monitoring that content more closely and making sure innocent videos are not being taken advantage of so easily. We've had similar situations like this before on YouTube. Kids were innocently uploading content, and people were taking that content and reframing it for fairly sinister purposes. At the end of the day, you can't necessarily prevent some of these things completely, but you can keep a heavy tab on them so that when their context might change, you can intervene appropriately. If someone gets off to someone existing, for example, we can't stop the victim in that instance from existing. We have to ask ourselves, how much can we restrict and how much we can prevent? It is an age-old issue of what liberties need to be preserved. It is a difficult question, but the thing is, I think although TikTok can make some of their features more salient and make it safer, it's equally just a case of making sure people are being educated. What do I mean? Well, as said, throughout school, we were constantly warned of catfish. Adults posing as children on the internet to try and lure you in with their enticing life because they understood you, fellow kid. We were also taught about stranger danger and how not just to go with anyone who said they'll give you a lift because they can give you a lollipop to suck on. A foreshadowing metaphor, I'm sure. The point is, the Bade was neither of these. He was not someone who was offering children candy in the streets, not that we know of at least, nor was he posing as a child online. He was a fat, bold man, not the pinnacle of attraction. I certainly wouldn't tap that to say the least. However, he ended up in a position that many questionable people on the internet have ended up on themselves. Many people who really should have no power, considering that the person on the other side of the screen can just up and leave. The Budday was an idiot, but he reflects a very overlooked trend on the internet, and that's one we can derive from real life. Over the last few years, we have seen the power structures amongst places like Hollywood gradually being taken apart. Scandal after scandal after scandal, all reflecting a network that many people had been complicit in and enabled through the communities involved. It was amazing, given how public these figures were, that everything was just swept under the rug to many people's ignorance. We had it in the UK too. Individuals like Jimmy Savile, Rob Harris, unbelievably public, but completely under the radar, despite some very obvious hints. The thing is that this is what power does. It intimidates people. And the online world is creating new forms of these communities that no one seems to be ready to understand. Within these communities, like anything, you have hierarchies and children who want to be a part and want to join in. And they have people they admire, role models, who are more accessible. Remember what I said earlier. They are then put in a position where they are offered a chance to be a part of something. And if they don't, well then they won't know what they're missing out on. And I understand that sounds completely bizarre. The fact that some kid with their whole life ahead of them would somehow end up sending you to a 40-year-old. But honestly, it's one of the biggest problems that I found with younger individuals online, myself included, is that they tend to have a very in-the-moment perspective. Looking back on my childhood, I can confidently say that barely anything that happened to me would have had a bearing on my opportunities right now. But back then, it seemed make or break. This is a chance to do something. If not, what will the consequences be with this person in power, with this trusted figure? The Budday was exposed because he didn't really have any of these. Everyone kind of assumed he was a creep because he behaved like one. But he still benefited from the position of power that almost gave him what he desired. And there are many people who've done it and got away with it because of their clout. Another real problem is the privacy that many of these sites generate. Many situations include people going to Snapchat, coercing what they need, and then nothing happens. You used to have to be really wealthy and powerful to set up such twisted rings, but all you do nowadays is have a bit of internet clout and Bob's your uncle. A creepy, naughty uncle, but still your uncle nonetheless. Everything is much more accessible, and given the fact that some of these cretins demand are instant nudes over Snapchat, it might as well have never happened. Power intimidates a lot of people, particularly children, and that was something that was never really acknowledged at my school. Younger individuals need to acknowledge that these people don't need to have the influence over their lives if they don't want it to. It's an uphill battle, but in my opinion, I think with the new creation of these online worlds, these are things that are more prevalent and more important to discuss than ever. Even if I had to use bloody TikTok as a proxy to push that message, I don't think the solution is just to shut down these applications, because as I said, it makes these incidents somewhat inevitable. To work on awareness and actual information rather than the classic school narrative of how computers melt your brain might be useful. Equally, as commentators and as compilation makers, I think about the narrative you're creating when dealing with these people. I know that people didn't necessarily have proof that he was a creep before, and frankly, I doubt that will change much given how faceless and lacking accountability a lot of these compilation creators are, but hey, what can you do? To add to this, I'm not saying that people shouldn't make videos on these people. I'm not saying that they should be excluded. And I've never supported that, but make sure the framing is accurate. And if you have a hunch that your video may bolster them, and they might be seedy, presenting them as merely some clumsy chump may not be a great idea. The world is changing for everyone, and one of the most recently observed problems, specifically coming from a website like TikTok, reflects a greater concern, and how illegalities, once restricted to the most privileged and most elite, are now increasingly accessible within the creation of communities of varying age, accessibility, and vulnerability. The Budday was an idiot, but not everyone is, and it's the ones who haven't been caught who are the ones we should be most worried about, because there's something about the internet that just has a very unique group of people, and many of whom are quite vulnerable, and they need protection rather than exploitation. There are many things the internet normalizes, and TikTok can show that there are specific features that can end up supporting that inadvertently. However, there are places that we can draw a line in, and remember that we can still hold these people to account and make sure that they don't get away with it just because they are on the internet, and make sure that these situations are avoided and cut down as soon as possible. Is TikTok safe for children? Not entirely. But neither is Twitter, YouTube, or in fact 90% of websites. Sure, there are definitely some things that definitely make TikTok more vulnerable as a platform, but we can acknowledge them, and we have to prepare ourselves for unsafe environments. It's inevitability at this point, and most educational systems do a good job of this. But maybe this new narrative of power should be integrated more. Maybe it has been already. I don't know. I'm no longer in school, thankfully. If I was, it would probably be a bit creepy. What are your thoughts? Leave them in the comment section below. I would love to hear them. I'm an open guy. I tend to read the top set of comments for a bit, and not in the comment section. You can reach me on Twitter at The Right Opinion. I have open DMs if you want to talk to me there. Discord too. Hit me up. Facebook even. I use that. See, I'm all on every site apart from Instagram. Not yet. I also want to give a big shout out to my editors who have once again done a fantastic job. I'm going to leave their links in the pinned comment, and you should definitely go and click them, check them out, send them some love. They really do deserve it. They are great people. Great people. I love them a lot. Also want to give a big thanks to my patrons. A few on the screen right now. They're in the pinned comment too. I love them a lot, means a lot, and a personal thanks to Ryan, who is still being extremely generous, and I do not know why, but I'm very grateful of it. Thank you, Ryan. Anyhow, I don't have too much else to say. Really much appreciated of recent. However, until then, I'm The Right Opinion, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Right Opinion, the home of a twat with too much free time. And today we're going to my favourite genre of all, music. Because your boy here, he loves the tunes. It's pretty much what I'm raised on. As I write this script, I'm actually currently listening to Mary's Prayer by Danny Wilson. Wasn't sure about it at first, but I'll say, simplistic pop songs do tend to grow on you. Unfortunately, today's topic won't be exactly focusing on my adoration for music. No, today we will be talking about a person called Austin Jones, who decided to take advantage of the clout given by such a blessed industry. However, to open this, I will at least be discussing some media-related elements, because music is a unique industry for so many reasons, and it generates so much creative variety that is out there, particularly in the last few years. As the internet has become increasingly prevalent in the distribution of content, we've seen a real wave of music become popular that otherwise wouldn't ever have the chance. There is a lot of music that originates from YouTube. I've spoken about this before, but you have some teen boy, swooshed hair, bent over his acoustic guitar, staring into the camera, singing a sincere song about how much he wants to hold you, and suddenly their subscriber count explodes, regardless of how good the music actually is. But at the same time, you have to give credit to the musical achievements that YouTube has provided. From the early days of Chocolate Rain to repopularizing that weird song, we haven't seen such a wave of unique music since the early 1990s in many ways. It's just unlike then when we had music blasting onto the scene with great furore. The modern wave has been mostly downbeat and mostly pretty depressing, and therefore it's never felt like a huge shock, more just like a musical cigarette. This is where we introduce the subject of today's video, Austin Jones, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed dreamboat. But no, he's not just a pretty face, he's also a predator. And we're not just talking about allegations here, he's pleaded guilty in court. This is all fairly certain at this point. Austin Jones himself is a 26-year-old musician fresh out of Illinois. He wasn't the most identifiable of personalities, but he was clearly popular enough to amass well over 500,000 subscribers. We don't know the exact amount as his channel was terminated recently following his court case, but it was enough to make him matter. Predominantly, he was a musician who typically focused on covers, original music, and also a cappellas, and making a fairly hefty career out of it, which we'll talk about later. However, he also did certain videos that I assume were to create a bond with his audience, most of which are now unfortunately lost in the vault of time. But nonetheless, I think we can take the remains and put the pieces back together and create some sort of picture and discuss that bond and how he exploited it. Austin started his career in 2007, and although it certainly took a while to gain traction, his continuous run of constant uploads and running off the popular genre paid its dues, and gradually his videos gained traction. This gave him more leverage to experiment with, and at some point he did these acapellas, which were really what bolstered his career, and eventually his content ended up amassing over 33 million views in total, alongside the sub count we discussed earlier. Much in lieu of my other video on the TikTok predator, the Budday, this video will be unpacking some of the build-up, the abuse of power, and the subsequent moves he called out to evade backlash, and indeed pull an almost unbelievable turnaround after a situation that really could have finished his career. In fact, the only thing that stopped him in the end was the heavy hand of the law. I remember when I first heard about the situation a couple years back in 2017. I wasn't making content that remotely resembled the work I was doing today, but either way, I dismissed it. You know, he's gonna get what he deserves. I'm thankful that actually he's not gonna be around. To an extent, that's true. He was a disgusting twat. But that was not the end of it. No. And now with these new developments, we're about to find out why, and investigate some deeper discussions beyond that. You see, although the attention on him has been widely pursued in the last 2 years, there have been people trying to bring attention to his behavior since 2015. Many of these attempts to no avail at all, with the most being a non-apology in which Austin only demonstrates more of his manipulative tendencies. The years after were not just successful for Austin, they were his most successful. And that's what I find deeply troubling. And I think it's time we understand how exactly that happened, and how he loved to abuse his power. So without further ado, I suggest we pursue the curious case of Austin Jones.
Jack continues.
Are you gonna send me videos now?
And he instructs her. Okay, you'll make it clap super loud and talk about your age the whole time. Got
And
it?
then that was the point where he was like, how about maybe let the fame get to their head that much that they think it's alright to do something. These vulnerable, insecure young girls.
Singer and YouTube star
so much
Austin
worse
Jones,
than it already is.
born in Chicago. Serious shit.
In many ways, what we see with Austin Jones is a classic ascension to power. He is the epitome of a teenage heartthrob, in that he represents the sort of lovely, accessible idol who is there for you, who understands how you feel. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, as the channel is no longer in existence, we have to take what little archive knowledge we can obtain. But I don't think it's too difficult to completely break down exactly why he found himself in a position of power. Firstly, he was a YouTube OG. He set up his channel in 2007, he was allowed to excel on the platform with less competition, and he was also ahead of the curve in many aspects. YouTube exploded as a platform for actual professional musicians a few years after, and Austin Jones was already there putting up covers. Now, his covers typically did well, appearing to exceed the number of views to the subscribers he had fairly impressively. But as we well know, typically making covers isn't the only way to hold on to the audience you have. But you see, Austin Jones had the look, he also had the eye contact, and he also had the choice of songs. What do I mean? Well, let's talk about One Direction, one of the most prolific boy bands of the 2010s. Why were they so successful? Well, because of the young, impressionable teenage girl, but also because of how they marketed to it. Now, one of the things that you become extremely aware of if you've listened to music in a critical fashion was what one would call the second-person perspective. Second-person perspective is focusing on the word you. It's a narrative perspective from your point of view, basically. And One Direction mastered it. What makes you beautiful? Gotta be you. The list goes on and on and on. And the reason that shameless musical executives did this was because the vulnerable, insecure girl loves to be comforted by the cute, charming boy who just wants to make you feel wanted. Oh wait, that's a different twat. I do apologize, there are just so many of them, especially early 2010s. I do not know what grew on, but PG singles about how much boys love you was the in thing. Austin Jones definitely played into that rule, having that sort of song that was addressed to you, the listener, where he would tell you how valued or loved you are. He'd have this cheeky look at the camera, and all you bitches were expected to swoon appropriately. If anything's left, you can have a look at the comment sections on one of his very, very old videos back in the day, and you get the comments that are completely won over. Another one of his videos, Sake of Falling in Love, we can observe the comments.
If you offered me forever, I would take it in a heartbeat. I love this song. I can kind of relate. You're amazingly talented, and thank you for making this awesome song.
Oh my god, I'm crying because these lyrics explain exactly how I'm feeling. I absolutely love this song. It's so amazing. I hope you become famous and have the actual CD song. I would definitely do it.
Oh my god. That's right. So beautiful.
I really fell in love with this song, and I really love your voice and your music. Please come to Germany, Austin.
If anyone can guess those YouTubers who voice them, you get a gold star from me, the Rat King. Now that is just one page. Of course, not all of these comments are alluding to Austin's looks or his romantic capabilities, but they should show the sort of audience that he was appealing to at this point. The sort of emotional character who cries whenever a blonde boy breathes in their direction. He's very cleverly creating an audience that is vulnerable in of itself, and therefore he can use that to his advantage. And so he did. The sort of thing can be found on his Twitter, or what was his Twitter, because it's no longer there. Well, it is there, but it's someone who clearly hasn't taken advantage of the notion of a parody account. I mean, come on, you can be more creative than that. But anyhow, his Twitter was conducted of firstly putting out vague, sensual tweets that make the impressionable audience think, oh wow, this guy gets me. At the same time, a lot of these tweets tended to focus on his vulnerability or how indebted he was to his fans, and this put him on their level. It makes him seem more relatable or warm to an extent. He owes you his life, guys. Wow, he would do anything for you people. He might not have made it this far if you hadn't bought his album. At the same time, it guilt trips people who haven't bought the album. It's a good double bind where he ends up favourably in either line of reasoning. The other types of tweets he did were those which heavily relied on the interactions with his fans. Now, there were even less examples of those, but I found one time where his page was archived in 2013, and a high majority of the tweets were what, judging from the format, I believe were quote tweets, in which he would regularly interact with his fans about their purchase or enjoyment of Jones's content. Though I did find this excellent tweet